Hello and welcome back to Bookish, and welcome to my Saturday Hodgepodge, my weekly wrap-up of all things bookish this week and booktube and anything else that I want to talk about. Probably a short video this week because once again, another week in July has gone by and I haven't finished any books. But I want to start off today by talking about the Netflix adaptation of Persuasion by Jane Austen. I watched it last night, which was Friday night, and I also, right after that, I watched Claudia from Spencer's Library review of it, which was really good. And Claudia's always a great, witty, cutting sometimes discussions of things I thought was just brilliant. And this morning, I woke up and I saw that Kim from Middle of the Book March had also posted her Saturday video. I can't remember if she called it Friday Reads or Saturday. Anyway. So I saw her video and she discussed it there too. I'll leave links to those down below. I thought both were really good reviews, really insightful. I will say that the adaptation, such as it is, of Persuasion that Netflix just released this month, bothered me less than I think it bothered those two booktubers. And Persuasion is my favorite Jane Austen novel by a good bit. I will say a couple of things that they're just, really irritating about it, which the others brought up. A weird pet rabbit is fairly prominently featured. There's definitely an attempt to make the book seem relevant to, or to make the story seem relevant to younger viewers, in that Anne talks to the camera directly, as Kim from Middle of the Bookmarks and Claudia both point out, in kind of a Fleabag kind of way. If you've seen the TV show Fleabag, which I just thought was great, there's some of that. It really had, in the beginning, had more of a Bridget Jones feel to me than a Fleabag feel. I think this is something that Claudia also pointed out. I thought Dakota Johnson was fine. Her accent isn't great. She does slip in and out. I thought the actor who played Dakota Johnson plays Anne Elliot, the main character in Persuasion. I thought the actor who played Captain Wentworth, the love interest hero of the story, I thought he was fine, but just kind of limited in terms of his facial expression. A lot of time he seems to be holding his head at a weird angle, with his mouth slightly open. I thought that was kind of odd, and he looked a little bit, like there was something wrong all the time, which, maybe broken heart makes you look that way. I don't remember looking in the mirror the last time my heart was broken. So there's that. I thought it was a fairly inventive use of cast. I thought a lot of the supporting characters were okay. I thought a lot of locations I thought a lot of the locations where they filmed were beautiful, and a lot of those shots and framing shots were really well done. But the problem with it is, in trying to modernize the story of Persuasion, to me the big problem was that you lose a lot of the tension in making Anne such a modern character. It really removes a lot of the constraints that were placed on Anne, the character, as she would have existed in Regency England. She's, Anne, played by Dakota Johnson, Persuasion, is far too familiar with everybody. She's far too relaxed. She's, improper in all kinds of ways, which the Anne Elliot in Austen's books never would have been. And because of that, you don't really buy into the idea that she could have ever been persuaded not to marry Captain Wentworth in the beginning. She's far too headstrong, far too, her own person. And you don't see that. I didn't see how she could ever been talked out of marrying Wentworth in the beginning, and that's a problem. And then also, when, in the story, Wentworth comes back into her life, 8 years after she's kind of broken off her relationship with him. When she comes back in, it's also then hard to really appreciate what Austen does in the book by creating that tension, which really is created a lot by the limits that are put on what Anne can and can't do, and her inability to go and do what she wants to do all the time, and to be with the people she wants to be with, and the constraints put on her by expectations of others and above society and of what she's supposed to do, because in the movie Dakota Johnson acts improperly for Regency England. It's hard to see the real tension that would have been created, that Austen created around Anne, where she is really constrained by the limits put on women during the time period. I really think that it loses a lot because of that. That a lot of the power of the story is lost because that period aspect of the way in which women had to behave and the constraints that women like Anne, you know, a 27 or 28-year-old woman who was unmarried, the constraints that were put under, the expectations of them. When you lose that, I think you lose a lot of the story. You lose kind of the miraculous nature of the love story as it emerges, and you lose, really, I think, what makes Anne to be a great character, and that is her willingness to break eventually with all of that, after living within that for so long, to break with all that and to take a chance and to essentially leave everything behind and to choose happiness by going with Captain Wentworth. Anyway, so I thought that was really, to me, the real flaw of the movie. You know, not necessarily the acting. There's that. Dakota Johnson is far too pretty to ever be considered the plain one of the sisters as Anne is. It's not that Anne Elliot, as she's described or presented in Persuasion, the book, is unattractive. It's just that Dakota Johnson is far too pretty to be the overlooked daughter in that situation, I think. Anyway, so there you go. There's my thoughts on Persuasion. This week, like I said, I didn't finish any books. In part, that's because two of my reading projects are buddy reads or group reads. I am still reading my way through The Town by reading my way through The Town by William Faulkner. This is part of Faulkner in August. This year we're doing The Summer of Snopes, reading the Snow trilogy. We read the Hamlet in June, and The Town is the book for July. And I am, I think, a little over halfway through. Is that right? Yeah, I'm a little over halfway through. I'm really enjoying it. This, I think, is an example of Faulkner being able to kind of play it straight as a writer and to really kind of show you how talented a writer he was. There are still, you know, there's still things I think you might think of as modernist gimmicks here, but this is Faulkner telling us a story from the point of view of several different characters who are very different. And I think I mentioned when I talked about The Prettiest Star last month that if you're going to tell the story from different perspectives and, you know, have different characters tell the story, each character needs to have a unique voice. Well, I didn't think Carter Sickles necessarily pulled that off in The Prettiest Star, even though I really like that book. Faulkner really does, and we have three very different characters. A teenage boy whose discussion of things and kind of free association seems like a teenage boy's. An overly romantic, overly educated grown man whose thoughts and sections are really verbose, and then a really kind of terse, wise, uneducated but incredibly smart character who's also giving us little insights into the story, who's the only character who really seems to know what's going on. I really enjoyed the reading this time. Also, buddy reading Manhattan Transfer by John Dos Passos. I'm buddy reading this with Fraser Simons from Springboard Thought, and we have finished section 2. There are 3 big sections in the book, so this is about 2/3 of the way through, and I'm really, really enjoying my reading. I think, you know, and I have several videos about Dos Passos on my channel, having buddy read the USA trilogy with Jack the Rambling Raconteur last year. I really think that Dos Passos is one of those writers who really needs a reevaluation, and I hope that more readers will pick up his books, and this is a good place to start with John Dos Passos, because I think here you see Dos Passos really firmly embracing modernism and trying out all kinds of techniques, from kind of introductory set pieces in which he is capable sometimes of, I think, some really extraordinary writing to kind of set the mood for each section, to his willingness to embrace incredibly modern subjects, which would have been transgressive at the time. There are, in this book, the section we just finished, there are abortions, there are gay characters who are introduced, who are not automatically vilified, who are not attacked or met with anger, who some of the characters are understanding of, if, you know, a little bit maybe just willing to ignore you know, the fact that they're gay, but that's in the book, and just some really great stuff. And I think Dos Passos' strength was his ability to really create a very American style of modernism, somewhat inspired, I think, by Joyce, but in some ways I think a lot clearer and a lot broader than that. These are very American books, and Manhattan Transfer is obviously set in New York, but it is a wide expanse of New York, covering different social classes, in different groups and different levels of success and failure and tragedy, etc., all going on, and you really get the kind of the vibrancy of New York City. I think that he was trying to capture. I just thought I would read a section to you really quickly. This is one of those introductory kind of paragraphs that with which he begins a section. I'm going to read this one, which is the introduction to the first section the first chapter of section 2, which is called Great Lady on a White Horse. Morning clatters with the first L train down Allen Street. Daylight rattles through the windows, shaking the old brick houses, splatters the girders of the L structure with bright confetti. The cats are leaving the garbage cans, the chinches are going back into the walls, leaving sweaty limbs, leaving the grime-tender necks of little children asleep. Men and women stir under their blankets and bedquilts on mattresses in the corners of rooms. Clots of kids begin to entangle, to scream and kick. At the corner of Riverton, the old man with the hempen beard, who sleeps where nobody knows, is putting out his pickle stand. Tubs of gherkins, pimentos, melon rind, piccalilli give out twining vines and cold tendrils of dark peppery fragrance that grow like a marsh garden out of the musky bad smells and the rancid clangor of the cobbled awakening streets. The old man with the hempen beard, who sleeps where nobody knows, sits in the midst of it like Jonah under his gourd. I really just think there's just some great stuff in that, some great scene setting. One of the things I mentioned to Fraser in our last comment was that Dos Passos really likes describing smells. And if you're kind of smell sensitive, maybe he's not the best writer. But I really am enjoying that, enjoying getting to read that with Fraser and getting his insights. I'm also still continuing on with Africa's World War. Haven't picked this up since last weekend. I got to page 73. It is a dense but very rewarding read if you have an interest in what happened really after the Rwandan genocide took place and the conflict that spread from that. And I'm also still struggling through Jane Austen, A Life by Claire Tomalin, biography of Jane Austen. It's getting better because we're finally getting to a little bit more of Jane and Jane's writing and what inspired her. I found that to be a little bit more rewarding, so I'm hoping to be able to pick up speed on that. I'll probably pick that up on Wednesday of next week. It's been one of those days trying to film a video. My battery ran out. I don't know how much of this I got in, so I'm going to do it again. I am buddy reading Death Comes to Pemberley with Kim from Middle of the Book March starting this week. This is a murder mystery by one of my favorite mystery writers, P.D. James, which is set at Pemberley, the home of Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy. And so looking forward to getting to that, both because it's a buddy read with Kim, but also because I like P.D. James. So there's pretty much my reading week. I am still working my way through the edits of my manuscript of my military history that I've been working on for, well, as long as you've known me on my channel. I've been working on this. It is a little bit of a mind-numbing and dispiriting process to learn that at the age of 55 I still don't know how to use a comma and other issues which I've had with the manuscript, but that's going pretty well. I also just wanted to leave you with a recommendation for some videos. Last week I put a video out about how I felt like the Supreme Court decision that overturned Roe was based on, just kind of a bad premise. And this week I noticed that Cynthia from Book Whimsy had put out a series of videos about the history of reproductive rights. Now, Cynthia is an actual academic. I mean, literally a PhD. She teaches history at the university level. And she has put out some videos on TikTok, which she's now put on her YouTube channel, which I just thought were excellent and really informative about how old, the history of reproductive rights and abortion and those things are. And I hope she continues this series. So I'll leave a link to the first two down below so you can check those out. I think I'm going to go ahead and cut it off here in case I lose battery again. But as always, look forward to comments in the comment section below, and thank you for watching.